So we have been talking about don't become a hospice care wife, don't become a hospice care kid. You're not born to be a caretaker, all of that. But this article takes it to another level. This person says, I moved to a different continent so I wouldn't have to take care of my sick mother. Let's get into it. The highlights: I moved from Germany to Montana 20 years ago. Even though my mom said she wouldn't repeat her mother's mistakes, she was angry about my move. I couldn't stay to care for her, but it doesn't mean leaving was easy. 20 years ago, I sat on the scratched wooden floor of my childhood bedroom in Germany, watching my mom straddle the giant black duffel bag while attempting to zip it up without ripping the cheap fabric. She was an expert packer playing Tetris with my clothes, photo albums, cosmetics, and favorite books, unwilling to consider that maybe my entire life wouldn't fit into one bag, tearing at the seams. She was angry with me, but directed her frustration at my unwieldy luggage with the broken squeaky wheel. 2 decades before that moment, my mom had been cramming her own life into a different bag to move to California with my dad. Her mother was sick with cancer. She accused my mom of being selfish for wanting to live her own life. So my mother swore to never guilt trip her future children for doing the same. Yet she couldn't hide her anger over me moving to Montana, or maybe it was grief. I left her so I could set boundaries. I left for many reasons. I was young and maybe not dumb, but very naive. I was in love. I desperately wanted marriage and kids, a perfect little family. I needed someone to promise they were never going to leave me. I envisioned a different life from my volatile family of origin. Growing up as a child of people with alcoholism, I lived in anxious confusion. Addiction made my mom unpredictable and unable to be a consistent caring presence. I learned to be hypervigilant, always monitoring her emotional states for signs of impending doom. I frantically tried to maintain our relationship at all costs, terrified she'd leave me. I strived to be a good girl, repress my own needs, and anticipate hers, believing this would make me more lovable and less likely to be abandoned. This right here, that paragraph is how people become people pleasers, how they're consistently attempting to get validation, like a golden retriever, like love me, pat me. That is how, right there. I frantically tried to maintain our relationship at all costs. This is what people do in relationships too. So if you are a people pleaser in your home, searching for that love and support and gratification from your mother, and you don't heal that, you may become a people pleaser in your relationships, in your organizations, in your job setting. So keep that in mind, that whole paragraph. Setting limits in healthy relationships with emotionally mature people is still uncomfortable for me, but with my mom, it felt impossible, as if even small, reasonable boundaries would could risk the entire relationship. So, just like I said, being a people pleaser starting at home is detrimental to the rest of your relationships once you leave the home. She sulked when I told her 10 weeks was too long for a visit. She cried when I let the kids cut the Skype call short on Christmas because they wanted to go sledding. She was angry when I didn't implement her parenting advice. How could I ever set any boundaries in a situation where I was taking care of her while she was dying? So many parents think that you are basically an extension of them. They do not believe that their children are actual humans that will have a different, that might have a different belief system, different opinions, different ways of living. And so that is the reason why some parents become really upset when you create some boundaries. Aside from dealing with alcoholism and depression, my mother eventually developed chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, or COPD, when I was in high school, requiring oxygen around the clock. My parents were divorced, and I would have been the traditional caretaker choice as the oldest daughter. I knew in my bones there was no way I'd be able to handle it. I was too scared to lose the relationship or be swallowed up in it. I knew I needed to leave the country when I did, and I would never return home. The geographic difference was the only way I knew how to maintain our relationship while protecting my own health and sanity. My mother told me once I was the most important person in her life. That's not a beautiful sentiment, but a crushing weight to bear for a child. I was on the phone with my mother when she spoke her last words. It was gut wrenching. Her raspy breath still haunts me sometimes, but I don't regret the decision to leave. Staying and taking care of her would have been hard, Leaving was hard too. Sometimes all we get to do is pick our hard. Y'all, y'all. It is not your responsibility to be a caretaker. And sometimes people have got to release that guilt. Some parents believe that they have these children and that our children are not supposed to have a life. And that is not true. We have these people and they get to go out into the world and create their own life. And it is so wild that a person would have to go thousands of miles, have to cross an ocean to create some boundaries because of heavy handed tactics that this mother implemented on her, thinking that she was going to guilt her into never having a life and not having the opportunity to experience her own judgment, consequences, successes, failures, all that. That is what the mother did. The mother pushed her out of the house like that. But that's how I see it. You guys go ahead and jump in the comments and let me know what you saw in this opinion piece or this essay from this writer. Like, comment, share.